Welcome back to the Digital Imaging channel. I'm Will, and today we're going to be going over part 2 of our Aperture card scanning cost series. If you haven't yet seen part 1 of our series, an Aperture card is basically a 3x7-inch card, roughly like this, with on your right side over here an aperture, a little window that holds a piece of microfilm in it. So it's kind of a cardstock material, a little heavier than like a piece of paper, but not where you can't bend it, not like super thick. So that's an Aperture card. And from part 1, the 3 factors, what goes into your price for scanning them are the number of cards is factor 1, the type of card is number 2, and then the resolution's type 3. And today we're gonna be going over factors 4 through 6. So factor number 4 for the price that you'll pay for an Aperture card scanning project is indexing. And next to the number of cards, the quantity of cards that you're gonna scan, indexing is probably the most significant factor that will go into the cost because there's so many different variations of indexing that you can do. It's theoretically infinite of the number of variations of indexing that you can apply to your project. But the reason it can be a significant cost is because you can really go down to the granular level and get really in the weeds, which when you make indexing more complex, typically it's gonna be more expensive. Now, the most common methods of indexing for Aperture cards is if you're looking at an Aperture card and there's a title block, basically that strip of information across the top of the card, that's one method of indexing. You scan the card, you get the image, and you use that title block information to create the name of the file. That will be the most standard method of indexing a card because it's visible, it's on the top of the card, very simple to get. Now, you may have a number of different fields there, you may not want all the information, but getting from that title block will be the most common method of indexing. Another type of indexing is getting the information from the actual image. So once you scan the card, you'll have that microfilm image available, and then you can actually go to that image and capture information from there. Typically, Aperture cards are things that contain information like engineering drawings. So we may scan the card, go to the image, and from the drawing title block, we may capture something like a drawing number and a description or something like that, which may not be on the physical card itself. So instead of taking it from the title block of the physical card, we go to the actual image and capture something from there. More expensive because typically images will not be as consistent as just taking the information from the top of the card. So it can be more expensive to have to go look around on the actual image. And then a third method is using the Hollerith data. So for a Hollerith Aperture card where it has those punch holes in it, you can actually scan the card through specific types of machines that will take that punch card information and spit out a file name. If you go with the Hollerith naming, the caveat to that is whatever comes out of there is gonna come out of there. Sometimes it reads really well. It's gonna give you a nice file name, nice string, very well presented. Other times it'll just be junky or it may not read at all. So there is that caveat that you have to be aware of Hollerith not being a perfect method, even if you have Hollerith cards. A workaround for Hollerith is if you do scan it and it doesn't read properly or doesn't read anything at all, I should say, what we can do is we flag an exception of this card did not read the Hollerith. Now go to step B and go to the image itself to then pull data from that image. So you at least have something that file can be named by. Factor number 5 is subcontractors, and subcontractors are basically folks that we work with to help us with various tasks. You could almost think of BMI, if we work with you, as your subcontractor. So if you're doing an Aperture card scanning project and you don't want to do it yourself, you're gonna hire us to do the scanning. We're like your subcontractor. Well, we have subcontractors at Well that help with various steps in our scanning project processes. And in most cases, it's gonna be something centered around indexing, so capturing the information from either the title block or the image or wherever. And the other thing that is typically utilized with our subcontractors, image framing. So in an Aperture card, you may have that 35mm aperture, that actual frame where the microfilm goes, but the image itself may not fit that whole aperture. So you don't want the extra border, you may want that cropped or framed. Subcontractors help us a lot with that type of work. Or you may have 16mm aperture cards where you can have multiple images in that frame, and you don't want to just get one image that shows the big frame with the images inside that. You want each page framed. That's something that we utilize our subcontractors for. Now, these are not just companies or folks that we just kind of randomly choose, say, hey, you sound good, we're gonna use you. These are people, our subcontractors are companies that we've had long-term relationships with. They are part of our, or during our security audits, internal security audits every year, we have them fill out security questionnaires, we vet them, we have business associate agreements with them. And when we do our external SOC audit, the auditors that are looking at us check that we have procedures and methods in place that when we use our subcontractors, data is protected and we're using the right methodologies. So they're not just companies off the street or random companies we pick every project. These are long-term partners that we use or have used for hundreds, even thousands of projects. The key thing with subcontractors is that we don't always use them. We like to use them, but sometimes our clients don't want us to, or because of the type of data that is on the Aperture cards or on the material in general, we just can't use them. Most times when we're working on a price and coming up with a scope of work for your project, we're gonna start with the assumption that we're gonna be using subcontractors because our subcontractors allow us to subcontract, outsource some of the work from your project, and they can give us lower costs or lower prices because of the scalability in certain areas. And if we have a lower cost, we can pass that on to you. That doesn't mean we have to use them. For some reason you say, I don't want to use subcontractors, or I don't want BMI, I don't want you using subcontractors. You just tell us and then we can eliminate that. But when we can't use subcontractors, in general, the price will be a little higher because now we're doing everything in-house and it's typically more expensive. And then factor number 6 is schedule, which is basically what's your schedule for the project. If you have some multi-100,000 Aperture card project and you say, I want this done in a month, that schedule is much quicker than what we would typically plan, maybe a 2 to 3 month project or whatever it's gonna be. So if you don't have a specific schedule in mind, we will come back to you with here's the price, here's the estimated timeline, and that's just what we're gonna base it on. But that doesn't mean you can't say, listen, BMI, I want this project to start here and end here, and you gotta be done. Absolutely fine, just be aware that tighter schedules, shorter schedules, especially with large quantities, Aperture cards can increase your price. That's it for part 2. We had factors 4, 5, and 6, which are indexing, subcontractors, and schedule. Keep an eye out for part 3 coming up, and if you haven't already, go check out part 1, which covers factors 1 through 3, so you have a overall idea of what goes into Aperture card scanning costs. I'm Will, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you keep getting videos like this, and we'll see you next time.